At dawn, on a quiet Ohio road, a sheriff raised his rifle and stared down the scope. What he saw didn't make sense. A lion stood in the middle of the asphalt, calm, unmoving, its mane catching the early morning light. No fences, no handlers, no zoo, just a wild animal, exactly where it was never meant to be. This wasn't Africa. This wasn't a nature reserve. This was Zanesville, Ohio. By the time the sun fully rose, nearly 50 wild animals would be dead. Lions, tigers, bears, wolves. Not because they escaped, but because someone opened every cage. The first calls came in just after midnight. There's a tiger on the road. There's a lion near my property. There's a bear in the woods behind my house. Dispatchers hesitated. Deputies laughed. It sounded impossible. Until headlights swept across paw prints the size of dinner plates. Until glowing eyes stared back from tree lines. Until officers realized this wasn't a prank. Something had gone terribly wrong. Just outside town sat a secluded property surrounded by makeshift fencing and warning signs. It belonged to a man named Terry Thompson. To his neighbors, Thompson was quiet, private, hard to read. Behind his gates, he kept a private zoo. Lions, Bengal tigers, black bears, wolves, primates. 73 animals in total, many of them apex predators. They lived in cages never meant to hold them. And for years, authorities knew. Thompson had been warned repeatedly. Animal welfare groups raised concerns. Officials documented violations. Neighbors complained, but the laws were weak. Enforcement was inconsistent. Ownership was legal. In America, exotic animals are governed by a patchwork of state regulations. In some states, you need more paperwork to open a food truck than to own a tiger. This wasn't negligence hidden in the shadows. It was negligence hiding in plain sight. Days before the incident, Terry Thompson was released from jail. He returned home to mounting debt, legal trouble, and a property collapsing under pressure. Friends later said he seemed overwhelmed, angry, isolated. No one knows what was said to the animals that night. What we do know is this. He walked the property. He cut the locks. He opened the cages, one by one. Then he took his own life. When deputies arrived, the gates were open. Cages stood empty. Animals moved freely through fields, roads and woods, confused, frightened, reacting on instinct. This was not an escape. It was a release. And law enforcement was completely unprepared. There were no tranquilizers on hand, no wildlife experts nearby, no time. Schools were opening in hours. Roads were active. Families were asleep in nearby homes. The decision came down to one brutal sentence: shoot on sight. Gunfire echoed through the countryside. A lion was shot near the road. A tiger paced in headlights, then collapsed. Bears were killed in fields where corn had once grown. Appeased to tease a stone. Some still warm, some frozen where they fell. Cameras arrived before answers did. Photos spread across the world. Lions dead in ditches. Tigers on grass. Bears lying still beneath open sky. The reaction was immediate. Outrage, disbelief, anger. How could this happen? Why were they there? Who allowed this? The blame, public attention focused on one man, the owner, the decision, the final act. But focusing on one man made the story easier because it avoided a harder truth. This tragedy required permission. Permission to own, permission to ignore warnings, permission to treat wild animals as property. Zanesville wasn't a freak accident. It was a system working exactly as it had been allowed to. Aftermath and reform. In the aftermath, Ohio tightened its exotic animal laws. Ownership restrictions increased. Registries were created. Oversight improved. But nationally, thousands of wild animals remain in private hands. The cages are cleaner now. The language is better. The risk is still there. The silence. The property outside Zanesville is quiet today. No roars, no gunfire, no sirens. Just grass growing where cages once stood. The animals didn't escape. They didn't revolt. They didn't fail. They were born into captivity, released into confusion, and killed in fear. The night the cages opened wasn't just about animals. It was about what happens when humans claim control over what they never truly understood. Wolves were hunted through brush. None of the animals attacked anyone. They didn't charge officers. They didn't seek conflict. They were doing what wild animals do when suddenly dropped into a world that has no place for them. Deputies later described the night as the worst of their careers. Some would say it never left them. By morning, the landscape was unrecognizable. Animal bodies lay scattered across roads and fields.